The light above me flickers once, then steadies. A pale blue glow spreads across the pre-op room, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. The nurse adjusts the foreline with quiet precision. My arm is already strapped, the faint chill of antiseptic lingering on my skin. My heart beats louder than the monitor's beep, beep. I had always imagined that when death came close, it would knock gently, like an old friend asking to sit for tea. Instead, it stands over me now, disguised in a sterile surgical gown, pressing a consent form against my trembling hand. Before we continue, if you're listening to my story right now, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know how far this truth travels. My name is Evelyn Park. I am 67 years old. And in less than an hour, one of my kidneys is supposed to be cut out of my body and given to my husband, Graham. They say marriage is about sacrifice. But today, sacrifice feels more like a sentence. Through the glass panel, I can see them waiting. My son Caleb paces like a man being hunted, his hands in his hair, whispering to the nurse whenever she passes. Next to him, Jade, our private nurse, stands calm, too calm, her arms folded as though this entire ordeal is a formality, something scripted in advance. And there in the corner sits Silas Reed, Graham's old business partner. He doesn't belong here. He has no reason to be here. Yet he sits with his expensive suit and polished shoes, flipping through his phone, looking up every now and then with that thin smile that makes my stomach churn. The nurse lays the papers before me. Just sign here, Mrs. Park. It confirms you consent to the transplant. I pick up the pen. My hand shakes. Sacrificing for Graham should be natural. We've been married nearly 50 years. I remember him in his prime. Commanding, decisive, the kind of man who never asked twice for anything. People admired him. People feared him. I loved him, though sometimes that love felt like standing at the base of a mountain, forever climbing, never reaching the top. But the Graham I see now is a husk. His skin has lost its color. His voice, once thunder, is now a whisper. They say his kidneys are failing. They say mine are the only match. And so I am here, pen in hand, expected to lay my body open for him. Mom, Caleb calls through the glass, his eyes red. Please. Dad doesn't have time. This is the only way. His words strike deeper than the needle that pierced my vein minutes ago. My son sees this as duty. A mother's duty. A wife's duty. A woman's duty. Jade leans toward him, murmuring something I can't hear, then looks directly at me. Her gaze slices through the glass, sharp and commanding. She taps her finger once against her wrist as if to say, hurry. Time is running out. I lower my eyes to the papers. The print swims. The first page, I know, standard surgical consent. The second, confirmation of blood type. But there are more pages beneath, stapled together. Legal language I can't parse in this moment, my vision blurring with fear. Don't overthink it, Mrs. Park, the nurse says gently. It's all standard. Standard. A word designed to soothe, to numb. Yet nothing feels standard about Silas's smirk, about Jade's calculated calm, about Caleb's desperation. I grip the pen tighter. My breath shortens. My chest feels bound by invisible wires. I think of my daughter Nora. She's the one who always asks questions, who never accepts the surface answer. She isn't here, or at least she wasn't supposed to be. We argued last week. She begged me not to rush into this. Mom, she said, her eyes fierce, sometimes the people closest to us hide the darkest motives. Please wait until I can look deeper. But Graham's time was short, they said. And so I silenced her. I told her I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try to save him. She left in tears. I thought I'd lost her. Now the pen hovers over the line. My hand shakes so badly I can barely see where to sign. My eyes drift again to the glass. Caleb is crying openly now. Jade has one hand on his shoulder, the other clutching a folder close to her chest. Silas is whispering into his phone, turning away, but I notice the twitch of triumph at the corner of his mouth. A cold dread trickles through me. This isn't just about saving Graham. Something else hangs in the air, something heavy, unspoken. The nurse clears her throat. We need your signature, Mrs. Park. I lower the pen. The tip touches the line. Ink bleeds into paper. My breath hitches. And then, a sharp sound echoes down the corridor. The crash of hurried footsteps. Raised voices. The glass panel trembles as someone pushes against it. I look up. It's Nora. My daughter. Her hair is unkempt, her cheeks flushed, and in her hand she clutches a thick folder stuffed with papers. Her eyes lock on mine, blazing with urgency. Stop, she shouts, her voice muffled but clear through the glass. Mom, don't sign. You don't know what they're hiding. The pen slips from my hand and clatters onto the steel tray. The nurse freezes. Caleb spins around, shock on his face. Jade stiffens, her knuckles white around her folder. And Silas's smirk vanishes for the first time. My breath catches in my throat. The room is still, suffocating. And in that frozen moment I know. Whatever secret Nora has uncovered, it may decide whether this operation saves a life, or destroys everything. The glass door rattles as Nora slams her palm against it. Her cheeks are flushed, her breath coming fast, and in her hand she clutches a folder so thick it looks ready to burst. Mom, don't sign, she shouts. Her voice is muffled by the barrier, but every syllable slices through me. The nurse looks at me nervously. Caleb spins around, startled, and Jade grips his arm as if to hold him steady. Silas simply smirks in the corner, but I notice his fingers tightening on the handle of his briefcase. I freeze. My pen slips from my hand and clatters onto the tray. For a moment the room is silent except for the monitor's beep, beep, and suddenly my mind races back to the last few days. To every uneasy detail I tried to ignore. 3 days ago Nora sat at my kitchen table. Mom, she said carefully, I don't trust this. Something about Dad's files isn't right. She pulled up the hospital's online portal and scrolled through Graham's results. Look at this report, she pointed. The typing says, perfect match, but the formatting looks changed. It doesn't line up with the rest of the file. I frowned. It's all numbers to me, Nora. Exactly, she said. They expect you not to notice. Her words planted a seed in my heart, a seed of doubt I tried to bury. The next afternoon, while dusting Graham's study, I found a small white pill bottle tucked behind a picture frame. The label was blank. When I shook it, pale capsules rattled inside. That evening I showed it to Nora. She sniffed the contents, her brow furrowed. These aren't prescribed, she said flatly. They look like unmarked supplements. Some of these can damage the kidneys. Jade gave them, I whispered. She said they'd help your father. Nora's jaw tightened. She slipped the bottle into her bag. Mom, this could explain everything. The next day she returned with photos she had taken near the hospital parking lot. In them, Jade stood beside a car handing a small package to a man in a cap. In the next shot, the man slipped her an envelope. I stared at the photos, my stomach twisting. Are you sure? I followed her after she left Dad's room, Nora said. She isn't just caring for him, Mom. She's hiding something. That night I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house made my skin prickle. The tick of the clock, the squeak of Graham's wheelchair when I moved him, even the rustle of curtains in the draft. And in my mind I kept hearing Nora's words. They expect you not to notice. Then I remembered Silas's visit weeks ago. He had come with papers, smiling too politely. He said it was just a precaution, a power of attorney so he could help manage things after my surgery. I had pushed the papers away, but his eyes had stayed cold and calculating. Now it all fit together like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to solve. Back in the present, Nora slams her folder against the glass. The word evidence is written in bold marker across the front. Open the door, she begs Dr. Lin, who has stepped into the hall. Her voice shakes, but her eyes burn with determination. There are extra forms in her packet. They're tricking her into signing more than consent. I gasp, my gaze falling to the papers in front of me. The first page clearly says consent for surgery. But beneath it, other pages wait. Longer. Filled with legal words I hadn't read. Jade stiffens. She doesn't know what she's talking about, she says quickly, her voice too sharp to sound calm. She's only trying to stall. Silas closes his briefcase with a snap. His smirk is gone. Caleb turns to me, his face pale. Mom, don't listen. Please just sign. Dad needs you. But I can't. My hand hovers over the page, frozen. My heart pounds in my ears. Through the glass, Nora locks eyes with me. She points straight at Jade. Mom, she cries, they're using you. Don't sign until you see what's in this folder. The guard reaches for the door handle. And I realize, Whatever Nora is about to reveal could change everything. The hallway feels endless as they wheel me toward the operating room. The squeak of the gurney wheels is louder than thunder in my ears. Every fluorescent light we pass flickers across the ceiling like flashes of judgment. Jade walks just behind me, her steps clipped and steady. I can feel her eyes on the back of my head, a silent command. Don't resist. Sign. Finish this. Caleb walks on the other side, holding my hand. His face is pale, desperate. It's going to be okay, Mom, he whispers. But the tremor in his voice betrays him. At the end of the corridor, through a glass wall, I glimpse Nora still fighting to be heard. She clutches her folder to her chest like a lifeline, waving at Dr. Lin. But before I can see more, the doors swing open, and I'm pulled into the cold, white brightness of the operating room. The air inside smells of antiseptic and metal. The lights above me are blinding circles of white fire. Nurses move quickly, their shoes squeaking on the tile, arranging trays of instruments that glint under the lamps. Mrs. Park, Dr. Lin says calmly, we'll begin anesthesia soon. Once you're asleep, the surgery will move forward. Please relax. Relax. How can I when my body feels like it's being chained to fate itself? The nurse lays the papers on a tray beside me. Final signature, she says gently. I glance down. The first page is familiar. Surgical consent. But beneath it I notice more pages with smaller text, paragraphs thick with legal terms I don't understand. My stomach twists. I look up. Through the observation window I see Silas standing with his hands folded. His expression is too calm, too satisfied. Beside him, Jade's folder is pressed tight against her body, as though it contains something she cannot afford to lose. Caleb's face appears too pale with worry. He taps the glass once. Do it. Please. My heart pounds. The pen feels heavy in my hand. My fingers tremble as I lower it to the paper. The black line waiting for my name looks less like ink and more like a grave. Then, bang. The operating room door slams open. Everyone jumps. A tray of forceps rattles to the floor. Nora bursts in, her cheeks flushed, her eyes blazing. Behind her, a guard shouts, "You can't be in here." But she ignores him. She clutches the thick folder against her chest, her knuckles white. "Stop this surgery," she yells, her voice shaking the sterile air. The room freezes. The anesthesiologist lowers the syringe. Nurses exchange nervous glances. Dr. Lin steps forward, his brow furrowed. Mississippi Park, this is highly irregular. Do you have a reason for this interruption? Yes, Nora says, her voice breaking but steadying again. Those papers in front of my mother are not just consent forms. Someone added extra documents. Power of attorney, property transfers. She's being tricked. And I have proof. A gasp ripples through the room. The silence is broken only by the relentless beep, beep, of the monitor beside me. I stare at the papers in front of me. My signature line still empty. My heart hammering in my chest. Jade steps forward, her voice sharp and brittle. She's lying. She's confused, desperate. She doesn't understand the process. But for the first time I see fear flash across her eyes. Dr. Lin looks from Jade to Silas, then back to Nora. Slowly he extends his hand. Show me. Nora holds out the folder. Her hands are shaking, but her gaze never wavers. And as Dr. Lin reaches for it, I know. The next words spoken in this room will decide everything. The room is frozen. The syringe hovers inches from my arm, the pen still resting on the tray beside me. My breath comes in shallow bursts. Every eye is on Nora, who clutches the folder like a weapon. Dr. Lin's voice cuts the silence. Confirm. Bring it here. Nora steps forward, past the guard who finally lowers his hands. Her knuckles are white around the folder, but her chin is lifted with determination. She places it in Dr. Lin's hands. Please, she whispers. Look before my mother signs anything. The surgeon flips it open. His eyes scan page after page, his face still as stone. Then with a sharp exhale he pulls out the stack of papers on my tray. He compares the signatures, the headings, the formatting. His brow furrows deeper with each line. Finally he turns to the staff. Stop all preparations. This packet contains unauthorized documents. A murmur sweeps through the room. One nurse gasps. Another steps back from the anesthesia cart, her gloves trembling. What do you mean unauthorized? Jade snaps, her voice high and brittle. It's all standard paperwork. Dr. Lin lifts one page and holds it up. Power of attorney. Property transfer. None of this belongs in a surgical consent packet. He slams it down onto the tray. Who put this here? All eyes swing to Jade. Her lips part but no sound comes out. For the first time since this ordeal began, her composure cracks. Silas steps forward, his voice low and smooth. Doctor, let's be reasonable. Perhaps there was a mix-up in administration. Dr. Lin cuts him off, his voice like a scalpel. I don't discuss life and death with lawyers or businessmen. This is my operating room. And right now it's not a surgery, it's a crime scene. Gasps again. The guard stiffens. Jade takes a step back, clutching her folder as though it might shield her. You can't listen to her, she shrieks, pointing at Nora. She's just a frightened daughter. She doesn't know what she's talking about. But Nora doesn't flinch. He pulls something else from her bag. Photographs. She lays them out on the counter for all to see. This is Jade in the hospital parking lot, exchanging envelopes with a man in a cap. This is the same week my father's lab results were changed. The room tilts. My chest feels like it's splitting open. I look at Jade, at the woman who has been by my husband's side for months, the woman I trusted to care for him. Her eyes dart left and right, searching for escape. Mom, Nora says softly, turning to me, they were never trying to save Dad. They were using you. Using him. Dr. Lin raises a hand and the staff halts. This operation is suspended. Effective immediately. The syringe is pulled away. The instruments are covered. The bright lights feel less blinding now, though the truth itself is harsher than any glare. Caleb stares, pale and shaking. No, this can't be true. He looks at Jade, pleading. Tell them it's a lie. Tell them. But Jade says nothing. Her silence is louder than any denial. Silas adjusts his tie, but his smirk is gone. His eyes, cold and calculating, slide toward the door as though he's already planning his exit. My throat is dry, my heart pounding, but for the first time I feel something new. Relief. The trap I almost stepped into has been sprung in the open. A weak, raspy voice echoes from the recovery room next door. What's happening? Why are you arguing? It's Graham. My husband. The staff freeze again. Through the half-open door I see him trying to sit up, for lines trembling in his arms, his face pale as paper. His eyes sweep the room until they land on me. And then he whispers, hoarse but clear. Evelyn, don't look in the house safe. Don't. The words hit me like ice water. Why would he say that? What does he not want me to find? My blood runs cold. The truth isn't finished yet. The ambulance ride home is a blur. Graham had been stabilized, the surgery cancelled, but his words echo like a curse in my ears. Don't look in the house safe. Don't. If he hadn't said that, maybe I could have convinced myself there was nothing more. Maybe I could have pretended Jade and Silas were the only villains. But his warning, his plea, made it clear he was hiding something too. By the time we step through the front door, the house feels colder than ever. The smell of old wood and lemon polish can't mask the weight pressing down on me. Nora doesn't waste time. Where's the safe? She asks. Her voice is steady, but her hands shake as she sets her folder on the dining table. I hesitate. My heart feels heavy, my throat dry. Behind the painting, I whisper. My late mother's portrait hangs in the hallway, her eyes forever watching, forever stern. Graham insisted the safe go there, hidden in plain sight. Together we lift the frame from the wall. Dust floats in the air as the hooks scrape against the plaster. And there it is. A steel door, old but solid, the kind Graham used to boast could outlast the house itself. My hands tremble as I twist the dial. The familiar clicks echo in the silence. Finally, with a dull clunk, the door swings open. Inside is not money. Not jewelry. Not keepsakes. It's paper. Stacks and stacks of paper. Nora pulls the first folder free. The top page bears Silas Reed's signature alongside Graham's. Loan agreements, she reads aloud, her voice flat. High interest. Collateral, property titles. Another file reveals more. Insurance riders tied to my husband's illness. Payouts triggered by transplant by my consent. My stomach churns. At the back of the safe lies a leather envelope. Nora opens it slowly. Inside are receipts, payments made to Jade Coleman. Regular, monthly, in amounts far too large to be called a nurse's salary. Oh my God, Nora whispers. She wasn't just caring for him. She was in on it. I grip the edge of the hall table to steady myself. My knees feel weak, my chest hollow. He knew, I whisper. Graham knew about all of this. Nora lays the papers out in neat rows as though arranging the bones of a skeleton. He didn't just know, Mom. He helped cover it up. The weight of betrayal crushes me. My husband, the man I was about to give part of my body to, was complicit in the very scheme that nearly destroyed me. I can't breathe. I stumble into the living room and sink into the worn armchair. My vision blurs, hot tears spilling over. 50 years, I choke out. 50 years, and this is what he leaves me. Nora kneels beside me, gripping my hands. No, Mom. He doesn't get the last word. You do. Before I can answer, a knock rattles the front door. Visual. 2 uniformed officers stand outside, their faces grim. Behind them, Dr. Lin appears in his white coat, flanked by a hospital administrator. Mrs. Park, one officer says, his voice firm but respectful, we need to speak with you. We have reason to believe this house contains evidence linked to financial fraud and attempted coercion. Nora and I exchange a glance. The papers are still spread across the table. The safe yawns open behind us like a wound. And from the bedroom down the hall I hear a sound, Graham's voice, weak but urgent. Don't let them take it, he croaks. Evelyn, don't let them. The officers step past the threshold. Their radios crackle. And I know, the truth is no longer ours alone. It's about to spill into the world. The police spread across my living room like a tide. Radios crackle, boots thud against the worn floorboards, and the smell of damp uniforms mixes with the faint lemon polish I'd used that morning. My house, my safe place, has become an evidence locker. On the dining table the papers are lined up like rows of graves. Loan agreements. Insurance riders. Receipts to Jade. Every page bleeds betrayal. Nora stands tall beside the officers, her finger tracing each damning signature. Here, she says, pointing. This is proof my mother was tricked into signing more than consent. This is how they planned to take everything. The lead officer nods gravely. It's enough. He signals to his partner. Within minutes, Jade and Silas, brought in under escort, are cuffed at my doorstep. Jade thrashes, her hair tangled, her voice shrill. I was helping him. You don't understand, I did what he asked. Silas, ever the businessman, stays silent, his jaw clenched. Only his eyes betray him, cold, calculating, already searching for another angle. But there is none left. For the first time in months I feel the weight shift from my chest. In the bedroom, Graham lies propped against pillows, pale and trembling. The officers hesitate before entering. Mrs. Park, the lead officer says quietly, we'll give you a moment. I step inside. The air smells of stale medicine and regret. He looks at me with hollow eyes. Evelyn, I was trying to protect us. Protect us. My voice cracks, a bitter laugh escaping. By selling our home? By paying Jade to poison you slowly so the insurance would pay out? By handing me papers to sign that would have stripped me of everything? His lips tremble. Tears pool in the corners of his eyes. Silas said it was the only way. The debts, they were going to swallow me alive. I stand at the foot of the bed, my hands trembling but my spine straight. And you were willing to swallow me instead. He looks away. The man I spent 50 years with stares at the wall like a frightened child. For the first time I see him not as my husband but as a stranger. I turn. The police will handle the rest. Hours blur into each other. Jade and Silas are driven away in the back of police cars. Graham is placed under hospital supervision, no longer in my care. Caleb sits at the kitchen table, head in his hands, broken. Mom, he whispers, his voice raw. I didn't see it. But I thought they just wanted to save Dad. I pushed you to sign. I almost. His voice falters. I'm sorry. I rest a hand on his shoulder. You were blinded by love. That doesn't excuse them or him. But it doesn't make you my enemy either. He nods, tears spilling silently. Nora kneels beside me, her hand gripping mine. Strong. Certain. You're free now, Mom. He doesn't get to decide for you anymore. And for the first time in years I believe her. The days that follow bring headlines. Local businessman and hospital staff charged in insurance fraud. Nurse accused of poisoning patients to create transplant demand. Paper trail uncovered in suburban safe. Neighbors whisper. Friends call. Reporters knock. But I remain steady. My truth is no longer a secret hidden in a steel box. At night I sit with Nora on the porch. The air smells of fresh rain. Caleb joins us quietly, setting down mugs of tea without a word. For once the silence feels like peace, not fear. I think of Graham. Of the man he was and the man he chose to become. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also carves space for something new. Now I speak to you, the one listening to my story. Blood does not always make family. Trust does. And when that trust is broken, you have a choice. Stay silent or stand up. I almost gave away my life with one signature. But my daughter's courage stopped me. She reminded me that truth is worth more than duty, and that survival is not the same as sacrifice. So I'll ask you, backhand index pointing right, if you were me, would you have signed? Would you have ignored the doubts for the sake of peace? Or would you have dared to stop everything, even at the edge of the operating table? Tell me in the comments. I want to know how far this story travels and how many of you would have found the strength to fight back. And don't forget to subscribe, for every story I share is another candle in the dark, lighting the way for someone who might be suffering in silence.